Okay, so uh, you all know about the open heart Bhumi model and know the basic things about it. So I won't repeat uh, those, the previously known things about it in this speech. And I think that this speech won't be very long. Let's see hour later how long it turns out. But um, I wrote this short text about bhumis um, concerning visiting bhumis, opening bhumis, and perfecting bhumis a while ago. I posted it at Facebook, and I would like to talk about this specific matter regarding bhumis now. So, uh, so bhumis relate to uh, chakras, right? The first six, starting from the level of the eyes inside the head, first six bhumis are there closely on top of each other inside the head, and the sixth one is on the top of the head. Then there are seven more chakras above the head, rising um, up to 5-6 meters, where the highest is the uh, mm, that high above the crown, and three highest ones of those seven relate to the so-called Mahasiddha bhumis, as you know. So when we talk about visiting bhumis, it can mean that we can, for example, if we would like to um, um, study and investigate experientially what the first bhumi feels like, we could only gently focus our attention to the level of the eyes inside the head and just kind of let I, I should say, like a view or dimension or panorama from this first bhumi level, let it open there and just remain like this. Kind of gently put your attention there and just let it open. And this would be experiencing it in your body, in your mind, in your being, uh, would be called visiting it, visiting the first bhumi. And the same can be done with any of these 13 bhumis or chakras, bhumis which relate to chakras. And as you already know, um, in Open Heart, we use this Bhumi model uh, very closely together with one's own practice. So, with the first initial awakening, the first Bhumi opens up, and then with further mind purification, these consecutive Bhumis from second onwards, they open up in as a logical sequence. So it's sort of like ladder, climbing up the ladder, and um, um, and if we talk about visiting bhumis, what's especially um significant is visiting those highest three, the so-called Mahasiddha bhumis, bhumis of full Buddhahood. And it can be that in the beginning, uh, for example, when you do the jewel visualization um, and try to make the connection with the highest three centers above the head, it can well happen that um, a beginner won't be able to experientially differentiate whether he or she actually is visiting or feeling, emulating some of the bhumis below the Mahasiddha bhumis. So this is, and it's perfectly fine. It can take some time to learn to make the distinction between the so-called Bodhisattva bhumis and Mahasiddha bhumis. So uh, that's perfectly fine. Um, and also, if we talk about visiting bhumis, there are, and especially Mahasiddha bhumis, those higher ones, there are several other ways that we use at Open Heart method in doing this. One of them is Guru Yoga, just like we did Tantric Guru Yoga to Magic Labdron, might be to other masters. And another way would be when chanting or taking the four refuges, Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. These four principles are rooted in the Mahasiddha bhumis, especially the highest bhumi, 13th bhumi. So jewel visualization, tantric guru yoga, and four refuges are different ways to do it. And of course, if we look at this not only from the viewpoint of open heart method, but perhaps from the viewpoint of Buddhist meditation practice, most Buddhists chant and take 3 or 4 refuges: Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. 3 or 4. So, so all Buddhists do it, but unfortunately, not everyone knows about this energetic, very subtle, very clear energetic resonance that comes with taking the refuge and chanting it. So this is why I always want to emphasize and make it clear that always consciously experience and notice what you feel with each technique, with each mantra, with each prayer. Um, Experience it, see the difference, see what it's about, and gain your own experience and understanding. Right? So yes, visiting bhumis to be able to do that, to emulate these bhumis of your own awareness requires ability to be mindful, to have some skill in concentration and just relaxation. So if one is very busy or absent-minded, keeps getting distracted all the time, then it might be quite difficult, a bit difficult to go through the whole Bhumi ladder, all 13 levels, going one by one, spending a couple of minutes on the first and few minutes on the second and third, and going up the ladder like this and coming it down. So, but for a person who has done any kind of meditation practice, uh, is awakened and has purified one's mind a bit, it should be quite easy to do this. We haven't done this going up and down the ladder, but we could at some point. We could. Maybe actually we should do it next year as the groups are joined. So I think that is that is enough about visiting bhumis. Then about opening of bhumis. So, so I think it's a good way to uh, um kind of describe what bhumi is. If we talk about, when we have plates, like food plates, the bhumis are like plates on top of each other. So first we have 6 plates here. I don't know, I'm just improvising. I don't know how wide it should be, or if this wideness is even a good way to describe it. But if we look at it kind of graphically, there are kind of plates on top of each other, all the way from the first to the 10th. So we have 10 plates on top of each other. And these first 10 plates relate to our dualistically deluded mind. The whole of dualistic delusion is connected to these first 10 bhumis. And then there are the Mahasiddha bhumis, 3 of them, 11th, 12th, and 13th, that are just, how should I say it, they are not plates in the same way, but something similar. 11th, 12th, and 13th bhumis are essentially the same Rigpa experience, the same Ati Yoga, but there is some like a very subtle difference in um, uh, like a good word in Finnish would be tiiviys, but in the density of between these 3. So there is subtle difference, sort of like a density difference between these. And so when we talk about opening of bhumis, and at this point, in Open Heart Sangha there are about 60 people, mostly from Finland, and then maybe about 10 people abroad. So at this point, when many people have been awakened and have progressed in their bhumis, it's logical and reasonable to say that um, opening of bhumi means something like when you have one bhumi like this, it's like a food plate. So opening of bhumi means that there's a hole in the center of the plate. So, and when the next one opens after some more practice, there is hole in the second one, but it's just a small hole in the center of the whole plate, right? So for some people, openings of bhumis come in slower pace, while to some people it can come very quickly, and um, um, but if the bhumis open up slowly, it doesn't mean that one's practice doesn't have any effect. Some person like myself, on some bhumis I spent quite a while. 6 months easily. I think at some point I spent 1.5 years on one bhumi before the next one opened. But if it lasts longer, for some people it can happen. Several bhumis can open in week or 2 weeks. But my assumption is that whether they open up quickly or slowly, one still has to practice. because there is rest of these plates to rest of them to open up, so that when we talk about the initial opening is just a hole in the center of the plate, but then there's the rest of the plate to be perfected, so that the whole plate eventually disappears. All those all the possibility for dualistic delusion and confusion will then, when the whole area of the plate is covered, will then the possibility is gone. So, so whether we are talking about quickly opening of bhumis or slowly, this slow practice starts to work on the bhumi that has already opened up. You're working to expand that bhumi or the previous bhumis that you have opened before the next one opens. On the other hand, for a person who has, in the Sangha we have two persons, two gentlemen who have gone through the from 1st to 10 very quickly during this year of 2016, and so, but they only have like these small holes through the stack of plates. It's just like a line, small holes going through the whole stack. But inevitably they have to work to get all 10 plates perfected. In other words, get their minds purified. So this seems to be the like the general mechanism how the bhumis open up. And all those videos that have been recorded and posted by different Sangha members, including myself, they are about opening of bhumis, not about perfecting the bhumis. They are just, you can observe from these videos and photos how a person's appearance changes subtly when a new bhumi opens up. And it's clearly, one can quite easily see the difference from these photos and videos. Earlier, my assumption about the opening of the first Mahasiddha bhumi or 11th bhumi was that it won't open until the 10 previous ones are fully perfected. But because of the recent happenings with several Sangha members, I can say that my assumption was wrong. That the 11th bhumi or first Mahasiddha bhumi can and does open before the previous 10 are perfected. And during the last about 3 weeks, I haven't told this publicly in the internet yet, but there are 5 Sangha members now who have their 11th bhumi open, and who are still perfecting the bhumi plates, the lower bhumi plates. And I was actually, I forgot to check the text. There was this one Sangha member who very wonderfully, he sent me email and gave his description of what happened, how he has felt had happened when his 11th bhumi opened up, and it was very nice, like very descriptive, how it feels, what happens with it. From my own experience, I can kind of draw some simple simple conclusions, which would be that the 11th Bhumi seems to be very different, very different than the 10 previous ones. Uh, I kind of start to feel that I wouldn't want to use a term like Mahasiddha or a living Buddha, because they are terms that have quite a lot of baggage. You know, when we start talking about Mahasiddhas, it can create the image of something, very high, kind of a yogi who just floats in the sky and stuff like this, mystical stuff and strange stuff. So I kind of wouldn't even like to use these terms, but I haven't figured out better ones yet. But what is very evident is that when the 11th opens up, even if the previous 10 are not perfected, uh, Ati Yoga changes dramatically. And by dramatically, I mean that it becomes very available. It's like it's not an instant access, because you're never out of it. Okay, so it's not like you have to return to it, uh, like one would have to with concentration practice. You get distracted in stuff, and then you have to return to concentration, and then you again get distracted, and then you have to. It's not like this. So it's not a matter of access, but it's a matter of um, kind of floating in the swimming pool or floating in the water all the time. It feels like that. You're not with the opening of 11th. You're not open away from the pool for a moment and then get back to it. You're all the time in the pool, floating in the water. But then, because the previous bhumis are not perfected, meaning that the mind is not yet fully purified, there can be, at moments, there can be a lot of crap coming up. So I've kind of felt it that way, that when the 11th opens up, the pace of mind purification kind of starts to, no, not the pace, but the quality of it becomes quite pronounced. If, for example, anger is a big one for me. So if I felt before that, okay, I have some anger, but now it seems that it comes up in this strangely pronounced way. Getting angry and experiencing the anger in a pronounced kind of underlined way, even though at the same time it feels kind of different because the 11th bhumi is open and the Rigpa is there. This, I wouldn't want to say open space, but this well, maybe that's a good one. Like the space is there. So it seems like the purification of mind kind of feels a little bit different. And so now it's been about 2.5, 3 weeks since this has been happening in the Sangha. So we're really in the baby steps of people getting to 11th bhumi, and how it actually, with what time frame do people get to perfect their lower bhumis, and how it will go. We're still taking small baby steps. And actually we had a discussion, we have a closed discussion group at Facebook for practitioners who have gotten to the sixth Bhumi and above. So we had a discussion if I kind of at first have had mixed feelings about telling about this publicly, because when we start talking about Mahasiddhas and Buddhas and that somebody claims to be one, uh, uh, it very quickly can get, confusing. So, and at this point, I have no idea, if there is something similar like opening and perfecting the 11th Bhumi. I have no idea about that at this point. But um, yeah, so maybe in 6 months or a year or a few years, we will surely be um, more wise regarding this point. But so I had kind of mixed feelings about um, talking about this whole thing publicly, because there's so much baggage um, about these things, and um, it is very common in in the um, when somebody even hints, not to mention claims, to have gotten at this point, um, it's like a social suicide in the internet. Um, it's like a shitstorm ready to begin. But at the same time, when having these mixed feelings, I kind of, um, you know, I suppose it's like a voice of reason in my head. It kind of says that, why not? The whole purpose of open heart method is to make sense of all this stuff. So it has been my way as a teacher to um, openly tell about things and talk about things and the way how I perceive um, and see things. And I've always said that um, I might have mistakes in what I say. Um, and I wouldn't hesitate to admit when I have done some mistakes or had mistaken views. I wouldn't hesitate to admit that stuff. And fortunately, I haven't done such bad mistakes so far. Um, but I kind of felt that I should talk about this, uh, bring it out in the open, and uh, other people who had the same opening have been, you know, um, um, have kind of felt the same way. So likely in the Bhumi study series that I've published and at the blog and YouTube videos, there will be these videos by these four other people um, about the 11th opening of 11th Bhumi. Um, yeah. And another thing that I wanted to talk about is what I've talked about before, kind of looking at this opening of Bhumis from a different angle, is the dark night phenomena. Pimeä yö, synkkä yö. Dark night is, I think it's originally a Christian term, and I don't know how it lured into Buddhist meditation scene. but it has happened, and dark night is being used widely. So I remember I've written a text about this in Finnish at least, but I think that I haven't talked about it in English and haven't written about it in English. So my experience and experience of many others has been in regards to, in relation to open heart teachings and Tibetan heart yoga, is that when a new bhumi opens up, it has a shorter or a longer period of, experiencing a more subtler and more peaceful and more clear state of being than before. And how long it lasts when a new bhumi opens up, how long it lasts, it varies a lot. There are a few people who have undertaken guidance to awakening, and when they woke up, the clarity for them lasted like a few hours, and then it was, dark night symptoms starting. While to some people, to others, the clarity has lasted for, can be months. I remember when my sixth bhumi opened up a little more than 2 years ago, I had 10-11 months of nice clarity. So while to others, for example, Paulina, my wife, she she didn't think much about the sixth bhumi. Her instant reaction was like, there was a difference in her experience, but this is not much. Let's continue. Her reaction was like this. And it's possible to not only have one period of, the duration of dark night when you experience like emotional, difficult emotions and discomfort, physical pains, emotional pains, just busy mind. This can last from minutes to hours, to days, to months, to years, to decades. So it varies quite a bit. But it's kind of I suppose, the definition is that you kind of, it's like when you're walking in the nature and the air is pure and clear, then all of a sudden there is a thick smog, fumes. Like there is this, let's imagine that there is this cloud of smog, and you walk right into it. Something like this. Like for a non-smoker, it used to be like that when going to a bar 15 years ago. These fumes and toxic stuff and so on. So the basic definition is that you clearly come across these psychic difficulties because of the karmas, impressions stored in your energetic system. So there can be one or several dark nights in between bhumis. Like for example, if you have your first bhumi open and before the second one opens up, between first and second you can have one or more dark nights, varying in duration. And the same thing with each. So it's kind of a case by case to case thing. There's no one single, everyone is different in that sense. But everyone is same in that sense that everyone has clear periods and dark nights, and that these two alternate. until the bhumis first through 10 are perfected. That is for sure. And like I mentioned, even when my 11th bhumi is open now, I've had really, really sticky anger and fears and at moments confusion as there has been before. But still, like I said, I wouldn't say that there's an access to Rigpa. It's not like I have to go and access it, but it's different, a little different now. So I think that's about the bhumis that I wanted to say.